Okay, so I guess we got to ask the question. We criticize Vegas for turning over every stone. Let's move to a team that will turn over no stones. We're not going to look at this. We're not going to change anything. We're going to throw a few more pebbles in the pond, and that's what we're going to do. It has set up the Leafs to be one of the more interesting stories this year. Not that they're not already, but this doubling down on a team that has failed for 5 straight years in the first round or the play-in round. What did you think of their offseason so far? I mean, it's obviously, there's still a couple months before the season starts again, so we're going to keep that in mind. Yeah. But what you've seen so far, CJ, are you impressed?
I'm impressed with their conviction.
That's a choice.
It is a choice, and it's what they said they were going to do 2 days after the season. And every time Kyle Dubas hasn't been in front of a hot mic since, and he has been a man of his word. So I think that I go back, and I know everyone's sort of bored of this because it's almost played out, but I go back to what Brendan Shanahan said in 2015. The problem in Toronto isn't to have the plan. The problem is to stick to the plan, and they are sticking to their plan. And I agree with that approach. Now, I think we can get into the weeds here, and I'm fully willing to, on whether they've made the right plan and whether they bet on the right guys and all that stuff. Like, I think that there's a fair conversation to be had there. But if I listen to even just my buddies or the people that always want to offer me their opinion on the Leafs, like every day it's like, you got to trade this guy, you got to do this. And that would be no way to operate any team if you're just a prisoner of the moment and you're reacting emotionally. And so I do think it's been a good offseason in terms of laying out what their vision is and delivering on it. And so nothing has surprised me. Like, I think, because, I've been saying that Hyman was going to go. I was saying that right after the season, and he went. And I kept saying, like, they're not in, like, people were trying to, like, link them to all these guys, Landeskog and all this stuff. And I was like, that's just not happening. Like, I don't know what universe those rumors are coming from, other than maybe an agent wanting the Toronto, to get a little bit of player on his guy.
Or Saravalli saying that D'Angelo might be a fit in Toronto.
Did he say
that? That was surprising. Yeah, apparently he did.
On his podcast.
Yeah, it was like,
people sent us that,
and we were kind of like, I
never. So. That doesn't line up with what I know and what I've heard, but I never heard that. If that was the case,
he might have just been spitballing,
right? Yeah,
because they always need a right-handed guy, but right-handed.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Handedness. That's what I was talking about. What?
Oh, Steve,
I was talking about handedness. Their power play was bad. Anyway.
So the Leafs.
Yes. But I do think so. I think that there's something to be said for them sticking to the plan. And the only thing that I found interesting, and not to parse his words, because we need the GM to speak publicly, but Kyle Dubas did say, I think just before the entry draft when he spoke to reporters, for better or for worse, I'm sticking with, these are my guys, I believe in them. And yes, it's just 2 words, for worse, but it does imply that there is at least some doubt creeping in. And, I think that would be fully reasonable, rational. I think that that's why we've seen such an emotional response from people that love this team, like you guys, like Steve, is that there's now doubt there. And, they didn't go out and do anything big to, ease your concerns. And it's pretty clear if Kyle's ready to go down with the ship, if the ship's going to go down.
Maybe a smaller move. So they lose Bogosian, wants to go to Tampa where it's nice and they win, and also he didn't like the restrictions and all that. So they got Dermott in potentially that third pair right slot. But Eric Engels reported that Yanni Hakanpää got basically where did he say he signed in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
And they offered him $1.5 million per year, which is exactly Travis Dermott's cap hit. What's going on there? You think they end up moving this guy?
Travis?
Yeah.
Not at this point. I mean, maybe if they can find a replacement. I think, right now you've got Sandin, Liljegren, and Dermott essentially as the bottom, like the 5, 6, 7. It's not bad, but I also think they wouldn't want to make it any weaker because, there's going to be injuries and things like that, 82-game season. So, look, Dermott was exposed to Seattle and expansion. They are even just by making that move, they were willing to lose him. His place here long term is far from secure. But I don't think they're looking to move him. I still think he's good value at $1.5 million, which is probably how Kyle Dubas looks at it. So, it's a long way of saying he's not here 100% for sure, but I don't think they mind having him. And at that cap number, I think that's perfectly fine for him as a third pairing D.
Speaking of expansion, there were some things that we clearly agreed with the Leafs, some things that looked maybe dumb at the time and look pretty smart now. I think you were in the camp of, well, they just got Jared McCann. Surely they're not going to lose him. What was your reaction to that saga? And then afterward, I want to get into Justin Hall.
I didn't mind the move to get him and to insulate themselves. I'd always heard that Seattle was interested in Kerfoot. I think their interest was legitimate way back a long time ago. As much as I see like Steve Birch and lots of people out there saying like, there's no way you can protect Justin Hall and you can replace him so easily. Like, unless Yanni Hakanpää, for example, was coming here, which he wasn't. I mean, look, there's like 6 Finns in Dallas. I think he's very comfortable joining his countrymen there. Again, tax-free state. Like, there's lots of benefits to Dallas. I didn't see that many clear replacements for Justin Hall that went for less money than he makes in free agency. Hakanpää might be the start and end of the list. And so I think that they protected an asset that was going to be harder to replace, essentially. I don't think it's a statement that Hall is necessarily more valuable than McCann might be, but it's like, look, we're on day 3 for agency as we're recording this. There's still players out there that I know the Leafs are interested in that I think can fit into the kind of role that McCann would have played on this team. And so I didn't have any problem with it. I was just more surprised they didn't work out a side deal to ensure that Kerfoot was gone. That was always what I assumed. I assumed that there was going to be a side deal we hadn't heard about after that move, just because it kind of pointed to that. Turns out Seattle didn't make any side deals because they were asking so much of the teams. And so ultimately you give up a 7th round pick and Philip Hallander as a B-level prospect to protect that area. I think with hindsight, it's hard to really quibble. It's just a lot of people would rather McCann be here than Kerfoot, I think, among the fan base. But at least they didn't lose both of them.